Welcome to the Frontline with FPM, where we talk about California politics, homeschool freedom, parental rights, and the family. I'm your host, Nathan Pierce, and thanks for joining us today. Let's jump right in and see what's going on here on the Frontline. Hi, folks. Today we have a number of great topics to cover, some things that are updates on items that you may be waiting for an update on, and some other things that will give you a little better insight into how the legislature works. So we're going to jump right in. Thanks, Drew, for helping with some of the research that's going into our bills and for being ready and willing and eager to share that with us today.
Of course.
So let's go ahead and just jump right in. Earlier this week, we had on Monday the swearing in of the newly elected legislators, many of whom have been here before, and some of whom are brand new. After that, right after that, the same day, we had bills starting to pour in. How many bills and what are we looking at there?
So the legislature came back into session on Monday, the 5th. So it is now the 9th. And so within 4 days, they've introduced 150 bills. Some of them are already being assigned to committees, and they'll be heard in the next month or so. So they've hit the ground running for sure. So we've seen some bills regarding curriculum. We've seen bills regarding teacher training on certain issues. We've seen some universal early childcare bills. We've seen some housing bills, including, relating to religious institutions. We've seen some gun legislation. So it's all around. There's
all over the map.
Yeah. Plenty of issues to cover.
So how many? 150 in the first week. This is it's a lot of bills, and it's it's the beginning of the session. I realize they're eager to get going. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we'll see 2,000 to 3,000 bills introduced between now and the end of February, right? Mm-hmm. So, what is the limit? We deal with a lot of legislation in here. It's more than in the U.S. Congress. What's the limit for a legislator to introduce bills?
So they need to. There's a process by which they adopt rules for every legislative session, and part of those rules includes how many bills each legislator can author. So for the assembly, each assembly member is limited to 50 bills that they can author. So each assembly member, there's 80 assembly members. So that means that in the assembly, with 50 bills that are allowed per member, that's 4,000 bills from the assembly alone.
And that's per session, not per year.
Exactly. That's over the 2-year period.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then the Senate?
And then the Senate has 40 members, and they are each allowed 40 bills. And so that would be 1,600 bills from the Senate for the entire 2-year session. So in total, that's 5,600 bills. And typically, last year, there were over 5,300. So most of them get to that limit or pretty close.
Yeah. It's a lot of bills. And a lot of people don't realize this, but we don't just have to read these bills one time. Obviously, we use a lot of tailored software to help us to not have to read every word, but to filter through all of this legislation. But it's not just that number. We're talking actually many times that, because most bills are amended at least once, some 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Mm-hmm. And so you end up with rewriting whole bills multiple times, which means that we have to reanalyze those. So, this is a big number for number of bills, but it's actually worse than that.
Yeah.
and it's ridiculous because a bill can change 2 or 3 times in a week at times. And so we have to be really vigilant. And yeah, it's a mess. It's a lot of bills, and we got to stay on top of it. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that I'm really thankful for the incredible software that we have. And a little bit of background on that, we've had people in our office working on developing software for that particular job of filtering legislation for over 20 years. And that's something that we kind of specialize in terms of being aware of legislation and the details of how to find something that's bad. That being said, terminology changes, and it's something that we have to stay on top of every year, of being aware of, well, what terms have changed in the society, in the culture, and in the legislature that we need to update in our software to make sure that we're catching the new stuff that uses different terms than it did last year or 10 years ago. So we have to be really vigilant on that, and make sure that we're staying on top of it. Obviously, you mentioned, Drew, that we've got a wide range of topics, some of which we've dealt with in detail in the past. Early childhood education is one of those. So we'll be watching these bills as they move forward. There's an aspect of the new bills that I wanted specifically to address, where it comes to bills that there isn't much to them. And we have different names for some of these bills. We call them spot bills or intent bills. And you found some of these even within the last week, right, Drew?
Yeah.
With they tend to show up right at the beginning of session, and the beginning of the year. So we have some bills that they're only a paragraph long, or a couple of sentences, or sometimes even one sentence. And they can come in a couple of different forms. They can say, it is the intent of the legislature to write a bill about this topic. And sometimes it says nothing, but it includes a code section and changes a that to a which, and just as a placeholder bill that's introduced at this time, so that they can later amend it to do something in that code section, or maybe even in a different code section. But it's a placeholder. It's something that's got that bill in the works. Now, there's a couple of reasons that they do that. These bills are called spot bills or intent bills. The couple of reasons would be because they're trying to just get things started, and they want to have something introduced so they can come back and work on it later. So they have a little bit of their work out of the way early on. Another reason that's really important that they do this now as opposed to later has to do with the 31-day rule. Now, when you look at a piece of legislation and you look at the status on it, you'll see on the legislative website that it tells you when it can be acted on after a certain date. And it'll show that in the daily file too. Each bill will have this bill may be acted on after such and such a date. And that's because there's a rule that when a bill is introduced, that bill can't be acted on. It can't be heard in a committee or voted on for 31 days, so that it gives everybody a chance to look at the bill before it's voted on or moves forward. That means that they can get the bill started, they can introduce it, but they can't move it through the legislature. Now, they have waived this in the past, which I believe we reported on this, was it just last year?
Yeah,
where they
it was last year that they amended it in order to suspend that rule, and so they were moving legislation through right away, like
right, yeah,
really fast.
And I think, if I remember right, this is a constitutional requirement, and they were able to suspend that rule with a 2/3 vote in both houses. So it's a vote to override the regular rules governing the legislature when they override that rule. So far, we have that rule, but we want to make sure that as we watch these bills moving forward, when they do start getting amended, they don't have a change in them that's going to negatively impact us. So we watch some of these bills from the get-go. Even now, we're watching them to make sure that there's nothing in them already that causes problems, or when they start amending them with real language that goes in the code, that there's nothing bad in them too. So yeah, so that's spot bills. Because the legislature is just getting settled in, some of the other things that we do to get information on bills early on takes a little bit of time to get going on too. There's a slow start to some of these things. I was at the Capitol yesterday, and a lot of legislators haven't moved in at all yet. I was in a couple of offices where most of the space is empty. They have desks, but nothing on them. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of just trying to get moved in and get settled. Some legislators are, the new folks are trying to figure out staff and get staff hired and placed, and getting everybody situated. So there's a little bit of a slow process getting information on legislation. We request information on the bills that we are concerned about, and trying to get more information about, and trying to understand better. And so we contact legislators' offices and staff. We will call them and ask for a fact sheet. And a fact sheet is something that most legislators use to help describe the need for a piece of legislation, a reason why they're pursuing a bill. And it explains their perspective on why they're presenting the bill, and the background behind it. So we ask for that piece of information, that fact sheet. And this time of year, we're not getting a lot of quick responses, right? You said you got a response from somebody, Drew, that what did they say? They said they don't have it yet.
Yeah, they basically said we're still working on the actual language of it. So this was one of the bills that we're tracking that's really just intent language right now. So
Yeah,
kind of a spot bill. Basically, the spot bill is kind of acts as the framework to say, hey, we're going to write legislation about this. And then later, once they have a plan, it's filled in. And so I've already requested a fact sheet on it. And basically, establishing those contacts allows me to just have a way, a window into that office to say, hey, like we've talked before, do you have any information on this bill? And the fact sheets are really helpful because they're basically built to be much more readable, basically almost like a press release for the bill, right? This
right.
is kind of, hey, this is what we're dealing with. This is the problem that we're trying to address. This is how we're going to do it. And then it also very often includes a list of sponsors, supporters, opposition. So it's really helpful to see, okay, who wants this done? Why might they want it done? Who's opposing it? Who's supporting it? And from there, it really informs a lot of the action that we take on each bill.
Yeah, and I appreciate the sponsor information, because it helps us understand not only kind of who's behind this, but also who do we need to talk to besides the author's office, that can also help us work on wording, because other people are invested in this bill, and we need to know who those people are so that we can be working with them to resolve issues. That's the best way to work behind the scenes, to work with everybody that's concerned about it, so that we can come to a conclusion or a solution on a bill that makes people at least somewhat happy, and resolves as many of the conflicts as possible. So we've talked about bills. We've talked about them getting started. On day one, the legislature comes into office, and they go to their respective floors. They do their swearing in. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because it's really important for us to understand that legislators take an oath of office. They are committing to doing something. They have been elected by the people. They are representing a specific district in your local area. So I want us to watch that, and to listen to that oath of office, so that it's very clear what it is they're committing to do. because it's important for us to understand that so that we can hold them accountable, because we're the people that put them in that office, and we need to make sure that we understand our responsibility too, because we're responsible as citizens to hold them accountable to their oath and to doing what they have promised to do. So, so do we have that that clip to go ahead and play? And
yeah, I have the oath of office for the assembly, and
okay,
so
excellent.
it's presented by Chief Justice of the California Supreme Court, and so we'll play that for you now.
Very good.
For the office of the member of the assembly, first of all, congratulations to all of you. This is really amazing. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
So they're sworn in. They take that oath of office at the beginning of each session. So some of these legislators, many of them have taken this oath before. They're all taking it freshly now, both the previous legislators as well as the brand new elected folks. It's important for us to recognize that they have taken this oath, and it's an oath that they are making to the people of California, and that's us. And so as we make sure that we're doing our job as citizens, we need to make sure that we are paying attention to what they're doing day to day in their work as legislators, and also that we are paying attention to if they're keeping their oath. And so I think it's nice that we're able to see that video of them, to see that that video is streamed live at the beginning of every session, and we'll have a clip of it separately also on our YouTube channel, so you can take a look at that there again. But also just be aware that they have made this oath, and that your legislator who represents you in your local district is somebody that you can approach, and you can go and talk to them, and you can express concerns to them. Legislators are people too, and they need to hear from us. They want to hear from us, generally speaking, specifically if you live in their district. And the best way to do that is for you to make an appointment with or do a drop-in visit to their district office. Legislators work in the Capitol office, usually from Monday through Thursday, and then they're home at their district Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They usually are doing work in their Capitol offices or in their district offices on Fridays. So you should be able to make an appointment with your legislator to visit with them, or at least visit with their staff in the local district office either on Fridays when the legislator is there, or at some other time of the week when you can visit with district staff. Now, it is valuable to visit with the legislator and their staff, or their staff, because it's a personal connection, and building that personal connection, that relationship there, is really valuable and important, because they value people, they value the people in their district, and they have a connection to you that's maybe outside of some conflict. So we end up sending out action alerts and asking people to make phone calls on things when things are already kind of crazy in the legislature and we have a problem. So right now is an opportunity for you to build a relationship, even by dropping off a basket of cookies or some flowers to their local district office and just introducing yourself and saying that you live in the district. That's a positive way that you can build a connection with them. Just having that eye-to-eye connection with a staffer or a legislator can go a long way toward having them be more likely to listen to you when there is a problem. So I would encourage you to do that. And if you want more information about that, you can visit our website and learn about that on our Advocacy from Home webpage. And we have a series of videos that teaches you how to do that. And also, we even have packets of information we'd be happy to send you about this if you're interested in taking that step, because it's really critical for, in a state of 40 million people, to be able to have a one-on-one connection with somebody in those district offices. It's really important, and it's an opportunity that you have to have a huge impact, that if you don't take that step and just go to that local district office, you never open that door. So any thoughts on that, Drew?
Yeah, I think that that a lot of I mean, like we've both said repeatedly, local action really takes it makes the most difference, right? I think we're so often focused on national issues, international issues, and yet where most of the actual political will that that can be exercised will be that'll have the most effect on you is right on your most local level, right?
That's right.
So talking with your district, or talking to your legislator at their district office, right? Going in with your family, all of these ways to reach out to them and actually establish a connection. It does so much more than them hearing, oh, here's a poll on this issue,
Right.
That's right. And so having that personal connection really redefines, I think, how legislators interact with the people that elect them.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Having those connections are pivotal.
Yeah. Okay. So that being said, we want to make sure that you have all the tools you need to be able to do that, and you can certainly find them on our website, getting under Get Involved, and it's not hard to do. If you have any specific questions about that, certainly give us a call or send us an email through our website, and we were happy to help you. We really love helping people make those district connections, particularly because it makes our job easier. It just does. Yeah. So please take advantage of that opportunity. Additionally, I want to get into some things related to Capitol Day is something else that I want to talk about today. And we've mentioned this last time that Capitol Day is filling up. But Capitol Day is another opportunity for you to make an impact and to provide that connection, that one-on-one connection. And Capitol Day is when we take a group of homeschool families to the Capitol. We do training. We talk about how to build those relationships, and we go in and have visits. We drop off packets at all 120 legislators' Capitol offices here in Sacramento. We have interactive discussions with legislators and their staff that builds relationships and helps them see real live homeschool families and can see that we are people that can contribute to society, and that it's a really great opportunity for them to get to meet homeschoolers in person, which is a really valuable thing for legislators to have that. For us at FPM, it's a valuable thing for legislators to have that interaction with real homeschoolers, because it helps them, it opens their eyes to see that we're reasonable people, that we're normal people, and that we can interact with them in a positive way. And it's an opportunity to be interacting with them not from conflict, but from a positive point of view of, we're coming in to just introduce ourselves, to provide information to them. We're helping them in this event. We are providing helpful information. We see smiles on faces at this event that we never see the rest of the year. So it's a great opportunity to open the door to these offices in a way that I can't do by myself, that Drew can't do by himself. It's something special where a homeschool family shows up and kids are able to interact with staff and legislators and to sort of break down some barriers. And it really is helpful to us. So I would love to see everyone there. Definitely get registered soon. We are filling up. We have, I think, 20-25% capacity left in this event. It has filled up very quickly. But one thing I want you to keep in mind especially is that if you have applied and have been approved, but you haven't registered yet and haven't gotten a registration confirmation address, email from us, then you're not actually in, and your spot might be given to someone else. We have had more interest expressed in this than we have seats available. So I know there will be people that want to come that don't get a spot. So if you do want to come, even if you have already applied, make sure that you have registered, because if you haven't registered, you don't have a seat reserved for you. So you might be giving your seat to someone else if you don't register. You will be giving your seat to someone else if you don't register. So definitely get on that right away if you're not registered. What else do we need to talk about, Drew?
Well, I know that that one thing that some people listening or watching may not know is that you do a monthly event with some other leaders in the state called Freedom Watch.
Right. Yeah, Freedom Watch with Chia. That's something that we started together. FPM and Chia started together a couple years ago, and it's really a great way to get up to date on some things going on. I am hoping that we will be giving you a little bit more update on the help me with the name here, the RFMA.
Yeah, Respect for Marriage Act.
Respect for Marriage Act, which has now gone from the Senate in the U.S. Capitol to the House in the U.S. Capitol, and from the House it has passed also and gone to the president. So that Respect for Marriage Act has gone to the governor's desk.
President's.
Thank you. The president's desk, too focused on California here.
Yeah.
And so President Biden has that either on his desk, or I suppose he may be either signing it right as of now or shortly. That is something to definitely be aware of and learn about. You need to learn about what that means, and because it is a threat to religious freedom, it is a threat to the family, and it is something that's dangerous to our freedoms here in California and across the nation. So definitely stay tuned to that at Freedom Watch. We have the opportunity of having a couple of people from Chia as well as myself talking about these issues. But John McGowan is an attorney that's really great in talking about some of these national issues, and I'm really grateful for his thoughts on these. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to get an update on that at Freedom Watch. next week. It's on the 16th, I believe. So
Yeah, a week from
um,
today,
yeah,
Friday the 16th, and that'll be on Chia's Facebook page live. It'll also be posted on FBM's page. We'll put it out on our YouTube channel, on our website, so it'll be available. If you don't watch it live, it'll be out there.
right.
So it's usually about between, you know, what, 30 minutes, half an hour, or 30
Yeah.
minutes to an hour conversation.
Yeah, 20 to 40 minutes usually is what it is. So yeah, it's a great place to get updated on some things. Um as we look into the rest of this year, um looking at legislation, we've kind of given a summary of some of the topics that we've seen so far already. What are your predictions, Drew, as far as what we're to expect um, as we go into January, when we see a huge pile of bills? I was thinking the other day, it's it's a massive amount of bills that get dumped on California in the early part of the year. Um, we have a just just mayhem dropped on us. So what are your predictions in terms of what we're up against?
Well, there's always a lot of education bills. I mean, that's, you know, that's a large part of what we do, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
deal with
Yep.
education, especially pertaining to homeschool freedom. And I think in the last couple of sessions, what's dubbed, you know, the culture war has really
Yeah.
come home to roost in California, especially for certain legislators that seem to have a bone to pick with a lot of these issues. And so um, that brings, you know, religious liberty, homeschool freedoms, parental rights, a lot of that into the crosshairs, even if that's not the main focus of some of these legislations, which in some cases it is. um, we end up in a lot of battles as kind of a uh, a side attack, right? Something that
Yeah.
so a lot of education bills, a lot of, you know, what we've dealt with, especially during COVID, is medical freedom bills, you know, religious liberty, like, you know, during lockdowns. I mean, they're still going to be introducing COVID legislation, you know, just
Right.
as a reaction, just as a, you know, continuance of other programs. It's and California is I think a standout in that regard now compared to a lot of the rest of the nation. So yeah, I think we'll see a lot of the same bills that we fight every year. But I also think that the focus is shifting more. I think the attacks are becoming more direct and more
Mm-hmm.
intentional, because a lot of bills we've dealt with have been, you know, they have a side effect that's not, they're not intending it, but it would impact homeschool legislate or homeschool freedoms, right? So we've dealt with a lot of that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but some, I think, coming down the pipe, I can see a lot of legislation that would be more specifically targeted, especially with the growth of
Yeah.
homeschool during COVID.
Right. I know this time last year we predicted basically that there were going to be at least 5 or 6 bills specifically targeting vaccines, perhaps getting into parental rights, at least on a couple of those,
Mhm.
and parental authority, and dealing with issues of who has the authority in the family to make medical decisions. And that was definitely before the end of the year that we predicted that, and we were anticipating a number of bills being introduced in January, which ultimately ended up happening.
There were about five or
Um,
six really big ones.
yeah, and we spent a considerable amount of time this year dealing with one particular bill that did, SB 866, that did directly attack the family and directly attack the rights of parents to make decisions for their children. So I think as we look this right now, from now out to the next year, it's I think you're right. The culture war that we're seeing here, specifically with regard to the family and the parents being the authority in the home, is being undermined, and it's going to continue to be undermined in very direct ways that we haven't seen before. One of the concerns that we also have is continuing to watch the issues of curriculum and specific areas of instruction. So we'll be watching that and keeping people posted on that as well. But we just need to be vigilant and remember ultimately that God is for us, and if God is for us, who can be against us? So I think with that, thanks for joining us this time, and we'll be talking to you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you all. All right.
Thanks,
It's good
Drew.
to talk to you, Nathan.
Yeah. Take care. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Frontline with FPM. For more information about the topics we discuss here, check out Family Protection Ministries at fpmca.org and subscribe to our channel.